everyone, and welcome to today's lecture, Organization of the Body. From this lecture, we will achieve the following learning objectives: the importance of understanding both anatomy and physiology when studying the body organization from simple to more complex levels, the locations and characteristics of the four main tissue types, and the body organ systems, their general functions, and the major organs contained in each. We will also be going over the use of medical and anatomical terminology correctly, anatomical position and its relationship to other anatomical positions, the body cavities and the organs contained in each, relating basic understanding of chemistry to its importance in studying the body, the parts of a cell and their functions, how substances move across a cell membrane, the stages of cell division, the use of these genetic techniques, the polymerase chain reaction and DNA fingerprinting, the different patterns of inheritance in common genetic disorders, and the causes, signs, symptoms, and treatments of various genetic diseases and disorders. The study of the body, anatomy. Anatomy is the study of structures associated with the human body. Human anatomy is the scientific study of the morphology of the human adult. It is subdivided into gross anatomy and microscopic anatomy. Gross anatomy, which is also called topographical anatomy, regional anatomy, or anthropotomy, is the study of anatomical structures that can be seen by unaided vision. Physiology is the study of the functions of each of these structures. In other words, physiology is the scientific study of the functions and mechanisms which work within a living system. Historically, physiology is one of the main foundations on which all biological and medical sciences have been built. If organs or organ systems are not functioning properly, then the patient is described as having a disease. Chemical level. The chemical level includes the tiniest building blocks of matter called atoms, which are the simplest unit of all matter. Atoms combine to form molecules. In turn, molecules combine to form organelles, the internal organs of a cell. The cellular level is made up of the smallest unit of living matter, the cell. Cells are the smallest living unit of a body. Individual cells may have some common functions, but vary widely in size and shape. Each type of cell carries out a set of unique tasks within the human body. Tissues are groups of similar cells that have a common function. Tissue must contain two different types of cells. An organ is a structure composed of at least two different tissue types that perform a specific function within the body. Complex functions begin to emerge at this level. When one or more organs work in unison to accomplish a common purpose, an organ system is formed. Finally, at the highest level of organization is a combination of all the organ systems known as a human being or organism. Each tissue has a characteristic role within the human body. Major tissue types are epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue of the skin provides protection to underlying tissue, keeping bacteria out and water in. Epithelial cells surround sensory nerves, providing for sensation. In the glands, epithelial tissues secrete enzymes, hormones, and lubricating fluids. Epithelial tissues that occurs on surfaces on the interior of the body is known as endothelium. The lining of the small intestines, where nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream, is an example of endothelium. Epithelial tissue is present in the kidney to assist with excretion of waste products and in sweat glands for excretion of perspiration. Simple epithelium forms a very thin lining for the walls of capillaries, allowing for diffusion of gases. Epithelial tissue lines the respiratory tract and helps keep dust out of air passages. The entire circulatory system is lined with epithelial tissue, helping to reduce friction between the blood and the wall of the blood vessel. Connective tissue. Connective tissue is the most abundant tissue in the body. Instead of being tightly packed like epithelial tissue, it is separated by a matrix. Blood is tissue made of red, white, and platelet cells. Plasma serves as the matrix of blood. Bone is a very hard tissue, while cartilage is more flexible due to containing less calcium. Dense connective tissue makes up ligaments, tendons, and joint capsules. Adipose tissue stores fat. Skeletal muscle functions in pairs to bring about the coordinated movements of the skeleton. Skeletal muscles are directly involved in the breathing process. Visceral muscle controls slow, involuntary movements, such as contraction of the smooth muscle tissue in the walls of the stomach and intestines. Cardiac muscle tissue causes the contractions of the chambers of the heart. This contraction results in rhythmical beating and circulating blood and its contents throughout the body. Nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is located in the brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves. Neurons, motor, sensory, or interneurons, and neurological cells make up tissue. Major body organs and systems include integumentary system. The integumentary system serves as a sense organ for the body, provides protection, regulates temperature, prevents water loss, and produces vitamin D precursors. It consists of skin, hair, nails, and sweat glands. Skeletal system. The skeletal system provides protection and support. It allows body movements and produces blood cells and stores minerals and fat. It consists of bones, associated cartilages, ligaments, and joints. Muscular system. The muscular system produces body movements, maintains posture, and produces body heat. It consists of muscles attached to the skeleton by tendons. Lymphatic system. The lymphatic system removes foreign substances from the blood and lymph, combats disease, maintains tissue flow balance, and absorbs fats from the digestive tract. It consists of the lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, and other lymphatic organs. Respiratory system. The respiratory system exchanges oxygen and carbon dioxide between the blood and air and regulates blood pH. It consists of the lungs and respiratory passage. Digestive system. The digestive system performs the mechanical and chemical processes of digestion, absorption of nutrients, and elimination of waste. It consists of the mouth, esophagus, stomach, intestines, and accessory organs. Nervous system. The nervous system is a major regulatory system that detects sensations and controls movements, physiologic processes, and intellectual functions. It consists of the brain, spinal cord, nerves, and sensory receptors. Endocrine system. The endocrine system is a major regulatory system that influences metabolism, growth, reproduction, and many other functions. It consists of glands such as the pituitary that secretes hormones. Cardiovascular system. The cardiovascular system transports nutrients, waste products, gas, and hormones throughout the body. It also plays a role in the immune response and regulation of body temperature. The cardiovascular system consists of the heart, blood vessels, and blood. Urinary system. The urinary system removes waste products from the blood and regulates blood pH, ion balance, and water balance. It consists of the kidneys, urinary bladder, and ducts that carry urine. Female reproductive system. The female reproductive system produces oocytes and is the site of fertilization and fetal development. It produces milk for the newborn and hormones that influence sexual function and behaviors. It consists of the ovaries, vagina, uterus, mammary glands, and associated structures. Male reproductive system. The male reproductive system produces and transfers sperm cells to the female and produces hormones that influence sexual functions and behaviors. It consists of the testes, accessory structures, ducts, and penis. Understanding medical terminology. A prefix is placed at the beginning of a word to modify or change its meaning. Pre means before. Prefixes may also indicate a location, number, or time. The root word is the central part of the word. A suffix is the ending part of the word that modifies the meaning. It can also refer to a condition, disease, disorder, or procedure. Anatomical terminology. Directional anatomic terms. To describe body parts and positions correctly, the medical community has developed a set of anatomical positions and directional terms widely used in the healthcare industry. The anatomical reference point is a standard body position called the anatomical position. In the anatomical position, the body is erect, the palms of the face forward, and the thumbs point away from the body, and the feet are slightly apart. It's important to understand the anatomical position because most directional terms are based on that stance. Body sections and body parts. Body sections include the sagittal plane, which divides the body into left and right portions, and the mid-sagittal plane, which divides the body into equal left and right halves. The transverse plane divides the body into superior and inferior portions. A frontal or coronal plane divides the body into anterior and posterior positions. Many other anatomical terms describe different regions or parts of the body. Examples can include cranial, caudal, medial, lateral, proximal, distal, external, and internal. Body cavities and abdominal regions. In most cases, the body is described as having two main cavities called dorsal and the ventral body cavities. The dorsal cavity protects organs of the nervous system and has two subdivisions. The cranial cavity is the area within the skull and encloses the brain. The spinal or vertebral cavity encases the vertebral column and spinal cord. The ventral cavity also has following two subdivisions. The superior division is called the thoracic cavity, which is surrounded by the ribs and muscles in the chest. It is further subdivided into lateral pleural cavities, and each pleural cavity envelopes a lung and mediastinum. Within the pericardial cavity lies the mediastinum. It encloses the heart and remaining thoracic organs, including trachea and esophagus. Abdominopelvic cavity. The inferior division of the ventral body cavity is called the abdominopelvic cavity and is separated from the thoracic cavity by the diaphragm. The abdominopelvic cavity is also separated into two subdivisions, the abdominal cavity and the pelvic cavity. The abdominal cavity contains the stomach, spleen, liver, intestines, kidney, pancreas, and gallbladder. The pelvic cavity inferior contains the urinary bladder, rectum, and reproductive organs. Chemistry of life. Chemistry is the study of what matter is made of and how it changes. Metabolism is the overall chemical functioning of the body. When put into water, some substances release ions, which are either positively or negatively charged particles. These substances are called electrolytes. In the human body, electrolytes are known as sodium, potassium, bicarbonate, magnesium, chloride, hydrogen phosphate, and hydrogen carbonate. An acid is a solution that has an excess of hydrogen ions. It comes from the Latin word acidus, which means sharp or sour. A base or alkali is a solution with an excess of hydroxyl ions. Biochemistry. Biochemistry is the study of matter, including organic and inorganic both, and chemical reactions of the body. Body cells depend on carbohydrates for energy. The most commonly used carbohydrate used by the body is glucose. Lipids are fat found in triglycerides, phospholipids, and steroids. Proteins act as structural material for building of solid body parts. Other protein acts as hormones, enzymes, receptors, and antibodies. Nucleic acid consists of DNA and RNA, which contain genetic information of cells. RNA also makes proteins. The parts of the cell and their functions, or cell characteristics. Cell membrane. Cell membrane is the semi-permeable membrane surrounding the cytoplasm of a cell. The outer layer of the cell is composed of phospholipids, proteins, cholesterol, and carbohydrates. Cilia are little hair-like projections on the outer layer that assist with movement, along with the flagellum, which is like a tail-like structure. Cytoplasm and its organelles. Inside of the cell is the cytoplasm, in which the organelles float in a cytosol. The cytosol is the portion of the cytoplasm not contained within membrane-bound organelles. Cytosol make up 70% of the cell volume and is a complex mixture of cytoskeleton filaments, dissolved molecules, and water. Nucleus. The nucleus is the most visible organelle in the cell and is usually round. The nucleolus is a small, dense spherical structure in the nucleus of the cell during interphase. The nucleus contains chromosomes, which are thread-like structures made of DNA. Other examples of organelles include the centrioles, which are part of the cytoskeleton, the Golgi apparatus, which look like a stack of sloppy pancakes, lysosomes, which contain enzymes, and mitochondria. Movement through cell membrane is done by the following processes. Passive transport, diffusion. Diffusion is the simple movement of particles through a permeable membrane, from a more concentrated solution to a less concentrated solution, until the two solutions are of equal concentration. Osmosis. Osmosis is a process by which molecules of a solvent tend to pass through a semi-permeable membrane from a less concentrated solution into a more concentrated one. In other words, osmosis is the diffusion of water molecules across a selectively permeable membrane. Filtration. Filtration forces substances across the membrane that acts as a filter, thus separating substances in the solution. None of the above mentioned processes require energy, so they are all called passive transport. Active transport. Active transport requires the help of carrier molecules from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration. Active transport is assisted by enzymes and requires energy. Cell division. The different stages of cell division are mitosis. Damaged or worn out cells are replaced through mitosis phases. During prophase, centrioles get in the right position to be replicated. Metaphase begins as the cell aligns for the split. The DNA lines up along a central axis, and centrioles send out specialized tubules that connect to the DNA. The DNA condenses into chromosomes. Two strands of a chromosome are connected at the center with something called a centromere. The tubules connect to the centromere, not the DNA. During anaphase, the separation begins as half of the chromosomes are pulled to one side of the cell and the other half go the other way. When the chromosomes get to the side of the cell, the division finishes during telophase. The cell membrane closes and splits the cell into two pieces, resulting in two separate cells, each with half of the original DNA. The cell returns to a phase called interphase, which means the cell is not dividing. The duplicating cell should have made a complete copy of all 23 of its chromosome pairs, but an error could occur in a piece of DNA called a gene, which contains a code for a specific protein or function. Meiosis. Meiosis is for sexual reproduction. Instead of creating two new cells with equal numbers of chromosomes, as in mitosis, the cell does a second division soon after the first, with a short interphase between. The DNA and genes are shuffled within this process. Genetic techniques and their use. Polymerase chain reaction. Using polymerase chain reaction, millions of copies of a section of DNA can be made in just a few hours, yielding enough DNA required for analysis. This simple method allows scientists to diagnose and monitor diseases using a small amount of blood or tissue. PCR is also leading to new kinds of genetic testing. DNA fingerprinting. DNA fingerprinting matches unique sequences of a person's DNA that can be useful in establishing paternity and maternity, as well as identifying suspects in criminal cases. Paternity can even be established before the baby is born with specific testing methods. The different patterns of inheritance in common genetic disorders. Heredity is the passing of a physical or mental characteristics genetically from one generation to another. In the nucleus of each cell, the DNA molecule is packed into thread-like structures called chromosomes. Each chromosome is made up of DNA tightly coiled many times around proteins called histones that support its structure. Chromosomes are not visible in the cell's nucleus, not even under a microscope when the cell is not dividing. However, the DNA that makes up chromosomes becomes more tightly packed during cell division and is then visible under a microscope. Most of what researchers know about chromosomes was learned by observing chromosomes during cell division. Each chromosome has a constriction point called the centromere, which divides the chromosome into sections or arms. The short arm of the chromosome is labeled the P arm. The long arm of the chromosome is labeled the Q arm. The location of the centromere on each chromosome gives the chromosome its characteristic shape and can be used to help describe the location of specific genes. DNA is a molecule that carries genetic information or instructions telling the body how to function and develop. In humans, each cell normally contains 23 pairs of chromosomes, for a total of 46. 22 of these pairs, called autosomes, look the same in both males and females. They are of the same size and shape and are also called homologous chromosomes. The 23rd pair, the sex chromosomes, differ between males and females. Females have 2 copies of the X chromosome, while males have one X and one Y chromosome. Sex chromosomes determine child's gender and other body traits. Common genetic disorders. Albinism. The DNA in albinism gene does not contain instructions for the body to create as much pigment needed for various functions. Most likely, both parents were a carrier but did not have albinism or signs of any lack of pigment. There's no cure for albinism. However, treatment can relieve symptoms and prevent sun damage. Treatments may include sunglasses to protect the eyes from the sun's ultraviolet rays. Cystic fibrosis. In people with cystic fibrosis, a defective gene causes a thick buildup of mucus in the lungs, pancreas, and other organs. Antibiotics may be prescribed to get rid of the lung infection and to prevent another infection from occurring in the future. Surgical procedures may include chest physical therapy. It helps loosen the thick mucus in the lungs, making it easier to cough it up. Medications used to treat patients with cystic fibrosis may include pancreatic enzyme supplements, multivitamins including fat-soluble vitamins, mucolytics, nebulized, inhaled, oral, or intravenous antibiotics, bronchodilators, and anti-inflammatory agents. Down syndrome. Down syndrome, also called trisomy 21, is a condition in which extra genetic material causes delays in the way a child develops, both mentally and physically. Down syndrome cannot be cured. However, early treatment can help many people with Down syndrome to live productive lives well into adulthood. Children with Down syndrome can often benefit from speech therapy, occupational therapy, and exercises to help improve their motor skills. Fragile X syndrome. The Fragile X syndrome is the most common inherited cause of learning disability. There are a few outward signs of Fragile X syndrome in babies, but one is a tendency to have a large head circumference or subtle differences in facial characteristics. Females will have mild mental retardation, but the effect on males is more severe. Polymerase chain reaction testing is used to diagnose Fragile X syndrome. This test looks for an expanded mutation called a triple repeat in the FMR1 gene. Hemophilia. Hemophilia is a genetic disorder caused by missing or defective factor VIII, a clotting protein generally passed from mother to a son. The main treatment for hemophilia is called replacement therapy. Concentrates of clotting factor VIII for hemophilia A or clotting factor IX for hemophilia B are slowly dripped or injected into a vein. These infusions help replace the clotting factors that are missing or low. Klinefelter syndrome. Klinefelter syndrome is present in males with an extra X chromosome. Females typically have 2 X's and males have X and Y. The extra X for a boy with Klinefelter syndrome will result in small genitalia and infertility. Testosterone replacement therapy throughout your life can help prevent some of the long-term problems that come with Klinefelters. Other treatments may include counseling and support for mental health issues and fertility treatment, in some cases using your own sperm to father a child. Phenylketonuria, or PKU. Phenylketonuria is a genetic test performed when the heel of a newborn baby is pricked to obtain a blood sample. PKU develops when a baby cannot synthesize the enzyme that converts phenylalanine to tyrosine. Phenylalanine builds up in the blood and can cause brain damage. While there is no cure for PKU, a special diet will allow a person to lead a normal life. That concludes today's lesson.